Tim and I, wanted to talk about kind of things that inspire us and how we work. And I think we started off with sketchbooks.
I mean, yes, it's a very, very broad look at what we find inspiring. I mean, there are many things that all of you in this room find inspiring. So unless you've got a week to stay here, we're never going to cover everything.
Yeah, but, tiny.
Yeah, I'm sure all of you are very creative people and get inspired in many different ways. But we had a conversation together and we kind of pinpointed a few things. And this is the first one that we decided, wasn't it?
Yeah, the first thing was sketchbooks and kind of how we document and how we end up there. But by a very tiny pinprick of it.
This is a picture of a sketchbook, in case you didn't realise. That's one of my first ones. I've got about... how many sketchbooks have you got?
I've got tons. They're like 100 and something.
Okay, that's number 19. You've got 100 and I've only got 20.
Yeah, I feel them very... I have...
You're quite quick.
I have like photo ones and then I have sketch ones and then I have combination ones. Drawing ones, I throw them away because there's too many of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
sometimes.
And we now know where to find Molly's sketchbooks. And
I rip out the good ones and then, yeah, sometimes throw away the bad ones.
So that's a sort of typical, as a photographer, I think you're going to see some of Molly's sketchbooks in a minute, but this happens to be one I did 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. And when I was preparing for this talk, I just went back and just randomly opened the first one I picked up. And I think it's interesting how you cut out pictures. I went to the Solomon Islands, and this spread was just some pictures that appealed to me for one reason or another. And I just thought it was very interesting that the imagery had gone into my subconscious and then had come out, as you see when you flick over to the next. So that's a picture on the right of an R.S. Van Herpen dress. But I just thought it was so similar. And then, yeah, you can just see how, as a form of inspiration, I don't know, I think once you, for me, it's like an ingredients cupboard.
Yeah. Did you picture that image when you pictured that image?
No,
or
I didn't.
Did it come? How long after you put those images in the book did you?
I mean, that was sort of like maybe a decade in between those two.
Yeah.
But I think that I've always liked jellyfish.
Yeah. And did you look at that book when you were working up to this?
No,
image?
I actually saw the similarity when I was preparing for this talk the other week. So I just thought it was quite interesting how pictures go into your... Like the fact that I photographed the model here, Kiki, on the right, on black or navy blue, and just the whole... I don't know, I wonder whether we ever forget things when we see them.
Yeah, well, we talked a bit the other day about... we had lunch and we kind of talked about the talk, and I think one of the things I remember talking about was that I find when I have loads of research on my computer from like screenshots of things, or if I've been looking for something online, which I kind of rarely do, and how I never, ever, ever remember the images, even if I found them a week ago. But something about... I go to the library a lot and I photocopy, and I basically photocopy like hundreds and hundreds of photocopies, and those images I remember. So if I have a thought about like a photo like what you
know
took,
exactly where
I know
it
where
is.
to go back and find it. Whereas the images I have on my computer, I'll see something and I don't know where it even came from.
I wonder why that is. Maybe someone can tell us. I don't know. I'm very interested that you physically cut something out, like go to the next one. The one here, you've got a picture of Henry Moore, and that was an article maybe it's an exhibition he just had, and how that image from an exhibition in a newspaper a couple of weeks ago, I will always know where that picture is. Yeah. And because I've physically held it, I haven't looked at it on a screen, and then I glued it into a book, I think, you sort of, it becomes in you, doesn't it?
How much do you think about the composition of your books?
Whatever fits together, I think this is quite chaotic. Yeah. What, are you quite tidy? Well, we'll see.
Chaotic.
You are chaotic.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, we were talking about the word that sketchbook, and
Yep.
Molly asked me if I sketch, and I don't see myself as a sketcher, I suppose, but then I thought, well, actually I do, because as Sarah's scrolling through these pictures, I think when I'm taking a photograph, I can always see it in my head, so I can see it before I've taken it, and then I have to articulate that to someone I'm working with, and then I just do a quick doodle just so someone can see. And then it's sort of interesting how they really do become the picture. So that was, these Polaroids are post the doodle. So it's sort of like, the illustration becomes the picture. So I think that's so important, and that's something quite interesting to discuss, is how in your mind's eye you can see something, and you can see it, but no one else has seen it yet, whether you're talking about shape or colour or whatever you're designing.
Yeah.
How you articulate that to people, and how important it is to find that, and how you know.
I do loads of sketches, and I normally do a drawing of a dress or whatever it is, and then I will often go to Becky, who's here, who's pattern cutter, and I'll redraw it, because I find being able to redraw it, it shows almost like the process of how you'd make it, like the step-by-step, almost like guide as I draw it, and then also I use funny words, like to explain the kind of mood of it.
What sort of words?
Like blobby wobby, or kind of like really silly, quite silly words.
Okay.
Just like to explain whether it's smooth or whether it's kind of chubby, or if it's like fluffy or sharp or whatever it to kind of, because sometimes you don't know what the fabric is yet, maybe. Yeah, so I think being able to like draw, and it doesn't have to be good
and to
drawing.
other people interpret those words and then show you what fabrics you could use to get topsy-turvy or whatever you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But I think also that relationship takes a while to kind of develop, like being able to read what each other means, and what the blobby thing means to me compared to what it means to you. Do you not find that?
Yeah, I do. What about in your sketchbook? Where do you get all your pictures from? I know you go to the library. Where else do you look?
Mainly images, the library, and then mainly the library or people out in the street, which is something we're going to look at, and then kind of finding other, like having inspiration that isn't based on like maybe an image or like a mood in an image, is normally by going to a museum, or the other day I went to an opera, which I found quite boring, but it kind of like made me zone out. It just there's a stillness to, I guess, your mind when you're in a kind of maybe a creative. Not even it has to be creative. Like I think it's the same when you go for a walk. Just there's a certain stillness where I like have ideas.
Opera, you always zone out.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, and then that zoning out is very resourceful in your imagination.
Yeah, it's really useful bit. Yeah. So you don't have to always absorb it. You just
are there.
Yeah.
Meditating.
Yeah.
What did you, when you were zoning out the opera, what did you feel? What did you see?
I think it was like, I mean, it was a good opera. I just I couldn't follow it. And I found out later that I actually couldn't see the subtitles, which was part of the reason, maybe. No, not the subtitles, the words.
Yeah.
But I think it was something to do with the colours in it, or even just like sometimes you look at something and you think, oh, I wouldn't have done it like that. And then it kind of leads into a real trail of thought about how you would have done something, or how you should resolve that thing that I thought about last week that I never kind of thought about again until that point in time. It's very, I don't know, it's very confusing. I don't know how you'd really explain that.
I think it's just daydreaming.
Yeah, it's daydreaming, which is really important.
Yeah, you go off into it, and it's boredom.
Boredom, yeah.
And I think boredom is very good. Actually, I derive a lot of ideas through boring operas and sitting on the bus or being on my bicycle, and it's not boredom, but it is a sort of. I often think when I look at everyone and myself on a phone too much, texting, too many people, too many friends, being too much in touch with people. I wonder what boredom time I've missed out on. Do you think about that?
Yeah, I struggle to have boredom time out of, like, at home alone.
Yeah.
I think you have to sometimes get to, like, a gallery or I find that anyway. Or walking, but it's never sitting still and thinking.
Or if you're going on a long tube ride, that's quite good.
Quite good.
For people watching.
Yeah, people watching.
People watching is particularly appealing.
I remember we talked a bit, which I thought was really interesting. I don't know if you want to talk about this, but the speed at which your thoughts change when you're doing...
Oh, yeah, I remember. About whether you're on a bicycle, if you're walking, or if you're in a car.
Yeah, I don't know if I have this, but you...
If a friend of mine was talking about it, he said, I wonder whether when you walk, you have a certain creative frequency that you're at, and then when you're gliding on your bike, maybe that creates another series of thoughts, and whether you're on a roller coaster, then you're, you know, that whole idea of different speeds and moving at different places, how that can affect the creative brain process. I don't know. Anyway, it's interesting, isn't it?
It is interesting.
This is another page from a scrapbook of stuff. Where have I got these images from? There's a beaten picture of all the Charles James dresses. It's funny, you look back at these books and things that felt so out of my grasp, or I would never be able to go into them and utilize them, then it's funny how then they become something. And the reason why I'm showing you this is that there's an obituary to the artist, surrealist Leonora Carrington on the left, and I must have torn that out of a newspaper, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. And then 3 years ago, I made a little film that I've actually never shown to anyone. So I was quite excited to share that with an audience. This is a little film all based on the world of Leonora Carrington.
God is alive, magic is afoot. God is alive, magic is afoot. God is afoot, magic is alive, alive is afoot. Magic never died, God never sickened. Many poor men lied, many sick men lied. Magic never weakened, magic never hid. Magic always ruled. God is afoot, God never died. God was ruler, though his funeral lengthened, though his mourners thickened. Magic never fled, though his shrouds were hoisted, the naked God did live. Though his words were twisted, the naked magic thrived. Though his death was published round and round the world, the heart did not believe. Many hurt men wondered, many struck men bled. Magic never faltered, magic always led. Many stones were rolled, but God would not lie down. Many wild men lied, many fat men listened. Though they offered stones, magic still was fed. Though they locked their coffers, God was always served. Magic is afoot, God rules, alive is afoot, alive is in command. Many weak men hungered, many strong men thrived. Though they boasted solitude, God was at their side. Nor the dreamer in his cell, nor the captain on the hill. Magic is alive, though his death was pardoned. Round and round the world, the heart would not believe. Though laws were carved in marble, they could not shelter men. Though altars built in parliaments, they could not order men. Police arrested magic, and magic went with them. For magic loves the hungry. But magic would not tarry, it moves from arm to arm, it would not stay with them. magic is afoot. It cannot come to harm. It rests in an empty palm. It spawns in an empty mind. But magic is no instrument. Magic is the end. Many men drove magic, but magic stayed behind. Many strong men lied. They only passed through magic and out the other side. Many weak men lied. They came to God in secret, and though they left him nourished, they would not tell who healed. Though mountains danced before them, they said that God was dead. Though his shrouds were hoisted, the naked God did live. This I mean to whisper to my mind. This I mean to laugh within my mind. This I mean my mind to serve till service is but magic moving through the world, and mind itself is magic coursing through the flesh, and flesh itself is magic dancing on a clock, and time itself the magic length of God.
Anyways, it's nice to see how the source of a great female surrealist can be a doorway into a dreamy thing, and then I can do a little sketch of a doodle of a film and then show it to you tonight. And then that's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. Can I just wanted to ask if you was that for anything apart? I mean,
It was I was doing an advertising job with Tilda and a group of collaborators, and I managed to, in a renegade way, to film that on the back of it.
Okay.
And unwittingly, the nice client paid for it, and I'm very grateful. So that's it.
No, that's why I was wondering how often you get to do things that are just for your own.
I think it's such the whole art and commerce question, and how much commercial work you do and how much work you do when you're completely liberated to articulate exactly what's in your sketchbook or in your heart is so rare. That's why I'm just very grateful when someone will pay money for me just to take a picture of something, and then I can then utilise that money to do a project like that. It's such a... I now see... It's funny, when I was at the beginning of doing photography, I always had a terrible struggle with commercial work because I always thought it was so empty and the world doesn't need another perfume, the world doesn't need another... But then actually I realised, but if that is a complete ancient patron, it's like an old school... It allows you to breathe as a creative person. So yeah, I'm very grateful, but it took me a while to get there.
Yeah.
So this is there's looks like four.
Yeah,
Are there four?
Four sketchbooks.
Yeah.
I think maybe some of these are quite, some of them are old, some of them are just books that I've put research in because I guess it had a kind of similar theme to it. Now I kind of keep my research in like seasonal folders, so there's less like sketches around them because I don't know, it's a little less. I think some of the image on the left, at the bottom left, was from I think my BA or my MA, so it was a little bit more. I had more time to maybe do beautiful sketchbooks, whereas now it's very much kind of
Rushed.
No, not rushed, but just a bit separate. I have kind of research that is like constantly referenced, and then I have mood boards on the wall, which I think I've got a photo of somewhere. And then I have kind of drawings that are like the inspirational, my sketches, which are kind of very creative in the dresses I want to make, and then I have a range plan, which is a bit more boring, of all the like dresses that you need to make to sell.
So what the sketches there?
Those are like...
That's for one... Is that one dress, the journey of a dress?
Yeah, but I will have done that in maybe I'm quite fast at drawing, so that might be like 30 seconds, a minute. Kind of,
right.
It's like quick and then you move. That's why I get through lots of sketchbooks. It's probably
Right.
more than 150.
God.
Waste of paper. But yeah, and this, I think it's often like, I often find one image sparks like 10 ideas. So then it's kind of hard. I actually now find it easier having kind of the images are a little bit more mood-based than, like I have mood images and then I have detail images.
So like the picture on the bottom left, the ruffling there, did that end up, is that something you've drawn on?
Yeah, so that's kind of a direct detail link rather than any mood, whereas the girls on the right, are more
mood.
So it's always a kind of a go-between of the images, which also is what we were talking about a bit before, but just the fact that often it's kind of hard to convey what it is that you're trying to do because it's all these different millions of elements that you pull together.
I think it's very hard to articulate emotions.
Yeah.
In general, it's very hard, and you know what you do is very emotional. I think what anyone does creatively is an emotional thing, so it's hard to explain it. I think the harder the better.
Yeah, true.
I don't think we should. I don't think anyone needs to. I think that's other people do that better than we do. I think it's nice to be a bit abstract and.
Yeah. Everyone always wants to know what it is that I'm on about. Do you not get asked all the time what it means?
I don't know myself. No.
Okay, good. Me neither.
I don't know what anything's about or what we're all doing here, actually. Anyways, that's more of sketches.
Yeah, it's often like kind of problem solving because you're thinking of a cleverer way or a more flattering way or a uglier way or whatever it is. So they're kind of like sketchbooks to me are more like problem solving and development, I guess.
And a way of explaining what you can see, actually.
Yeah, exactly. And then the images, go next to it, whether it is the detail or the mood.
And what's that picture there, the bottom right one? Is that
I think that's like
mood?
a Vogue Italia mood thing. I look at a lot of Vogue Italia. I like Vogue Italia.
Where did you go and look at Vogue Italia? Where do they have that in a library?
In the library, yeah. In Central St Martin.
Okay, and they have all of them?
They have pretty much all of them. They have bound periodicals.
Bound, God.
But I never know what I'm looking for. I just like to go and kind of randomly pull, and then I mark my hundreds of images, photocopy them all. It takes ages, and then normally I get back to the studio and there's kind of something has formed, or while I'm doing it, I realise I've gone off on a.
Is that an editing process? Do you edit it out?
So I think I'm editing as I go.
You get a pile of copies that you've inspired you, and then you edit it down as you go, screw them up, litter.
No, more that when you get back, I look at it and it all makes so much sense to me.
Right.
But it doesn't make much sense to anyone else because it's like three totally different things, like ugly denim and shiny things and Test the D'Urbervilles, and none of it makes sense. But it's, to me, I put it on the wall and I can see what the collection is.
Yeah. What about film? Do you look at films?
Yeah, but maybe films are more like the quiet time.
Right, and do you take pictures with your iPhone would you pause a film? Do you watch the film and then go back and pause it, or do you
No, I do it
pause
at the time.
At the time.
But most of my ones of quite a lot. I have quite a lot of Sex and the City screenshots.
Do you?
And Friends.
That's a good
clothing references. Yeah. Do you look at films?
Yeah, I love film. I find film. I can't believe when I see a good film. I can't believe anyone's done it because I just think it is the completion of the impossible. I think a good film. All the people involved in making film. I mean, in photography itself, there's so many things that go wrong. I mean, you're dealing with so many problems. Do you have problems? What are your problems? Delivery dates and production.
Getting the fabric that you want for the dress at the price that you want. That means it's not a £7,000 dress, which is very easy to do.
Very hard to navigate all of that, I think.
Yeah.
Because what your dream and what if the precision of what you want to do, you want to go for the best fabric that you can get, and then it turns out to cost £1,000 a metre.
Yeah.
Is it always, do you have expensive taste in fabric?
No, I don't have expensive taste. I have more. More is more like. What's it called? I can't think. Yeah, I like fabrics that are good and good quality, but that you can not the cheaper it is, because you shouldn't really say that, but
The cheaper the better. There you go.
Yeah, kind of.
She just said it.
I hate when I have a fabric that's like £40 a metre, and you can only really use a metre of it in a garment. It bores me. You want something that's like £3 a metre,
So
and you can
can
put 50 metres in, and
I
then you
get
don't
you.
have to think about it.
That's the more is
Do you
more.
have that? You have.
Yeah, I love paper, because paper's like
Yeah.
using paper as a form to work with. Doesn't feel like you're the nature. So you can, if I'm photographing, I might cut down loads of branches, and that's more
Yeah.
is more. That's very.
Yeah.
And then it was really frustrating. Like I remember once I was doing a shoot with neon, and I wanted to sort of pipe all the furniture in a room with neon, and then neon's so expensive. I was like, oh, I've got to forget that one.
Couldn't you do something? Was there nothing else?
Well,
you
we
could
ended
use?
up using like plastic hose pipes that had little lights in them. That was very cheap.
Yeah.
So it was always a solution. But I think actually that's resourcefulness and facing the barrier of the expensive neon or the expense of your 40 quid a metre fabric is quite good, because it makes you think in different ways. And
Yeah, I think it's often far more creative to have.
barriers.
Yeah, to a certain extent.
Budgets.
Budgets. I don't
In
know what
fact,
I'd do if
whenever I've
limited.
done a shoot and I've had limitless money, which has happened probably once, I find it very difficult to work within that, because
Yeah,
it's
because
sort
how
of,
do you ever-
there's nothing to lean against. It's
No.
like you can go here, you go there, go.
Yeah, and then you try and get all your ideas in one, whereas sometimes it's good to just be able to hone in.
Hone in, exactly. Too many ideas, too many sketchbooks, too many visits to the library. Yeah. The next thing we're going to talk about that we discussed is nature.
Yes.
And you, when you go out on the street, you Molly stalks people who she thinks has got.
Yeah, these are my photos of stalking people, which I do all the time. Just things I think normally it is of the back of people. I don't normally do it of people's faces, but yeah, it's always the back, just a silhouette or like an interesting shape, or that red skirt I thought was really interesting. And I love the road sweeper's kind of grey skirt made out of, I don't know, maybe it was made out of, I don't know, maybe it's a rain mac. I don't know. I think this is kind of our point of, maybe not a point, but what we've been talking about is kind of like that we find inspiration everywhere, which sounds
No, it sounds really naff saying
really
that.
naff.
Sounds like
because it's not everywhere.
But it is true,
I think it's
though.
people. I
It
think
is
people
true.
watching is one of my
I
favourite
think people are the
things
most
to do.
inspiring thing.
Yeah,
I think people
Yeah.
in the end are the source of everything
yeah,
for ideas and stuff.
yeah.
I think it's endlessly fascinating looking
Yeah.
at people. I think that is, yeah.
No, that's what I do on the tube. Look at people and think about how someone wears a bag, and think about how someone like.
Where was the top right picture? Where was that taken?
That was in London somewhere.
Different seasons.
Yeah, and then the one top left was in Glastonbury. Glastonbury was good for my street style.
Yeah, a good point of
Very
reference.
good. Yeah, it's really amazing there.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. Yeah.
Where do you want to go as a point of reference, do you think? Where could there be a group of people that could give you... Have you thought about that?
Yeah, I'd like to go to Spain more. I've been to Spain quite a lot, but I'm always a
Right.
bit obsessed with Spanish ladies and...
The way they dress.
Yeah, and
What
also
is it about
traditional
Spain, do you think?
Costume. I don't know. I think maybe just like the frills, which sounds silly, but
Yeah.
frills and black and gold. It's those very simple things, but they always look amazing.
Yeah.
And I'd like to go... I've got this amazing book of Dutch traditional costume, which is very sci-fi. They all have like mirrors. They have mirrors and they have kind of metal corkscrews, and it's just this
I haven't seen
amazing...
them.
I mean, I don't think it exists anymore, but I'd like
Right.
to go and find out where it did exist from. Where's your place? Have you...
Where would I
Place
like
to
to
go
go?
and-
Oh my God.
that you haven't been?
So many places. I would like to go to Bolivia because they have these big. Because I'm looking at. I suppose I'm looking at it in the same way as you are, because I look at it more as a sort of a background
Yeah.
or a sort of. The geography is interesting. So in Bolivia, they have this incredible salt plains, where it's just a flat white expanse, and then in the morning you get the dew on the ground, and it's like a big mirror. So if you get cloud formations, you get a sort of the clouds and then the mirror of it. It looks otherworldly. I think, yeah, anywhere. And then there's also Lake Titicaca, where they have islands made out of grass, where they make rafts out of grass, and then the grass will turn into mulch, and then they get rid of that, and then they put new grass on, and then they build houses out, and it's all beige.
In Bolivia?
In Bolivia, yeah.
Wow.
But apparently you need to have oxygen because it's so high, the altitude.
Wow.
So I don't know whether it's possible to do a photo shoot there.
You need a big budget.
Yeah, need a big budget. Yeah. This is another little clip I wanted to show you. When Molly and I were talking about nature, and we were discussing what is it about nature. I think for me, nature is a huge, humongous inspiration that I draw on as a photographer, and then it became very important to me because did I want to be a fashion photographer? No, I don't think I did. I think I wanted to be a photographer. And I didn't understand the fashion industry in the 90s was a time that was very alienating to me because it was all about big supermodels and glamour and gold, and everyone was 8 foot tall and I was 5'6", and it all felt very, I didn't feel I understood the fashion industry. And then I struggled with that. I did the glamour of it, I felt very outside it, and fashion as a way of expressing yourself felt shallow to me, and I was really looking for an explanation. And then I was watching a nature clip, and it dawned on me that dress and how you make clothes and why people want to wear your clothes, or how anyone in here is wearing clothes, is innately in us. It is, it's natural. It is part of our nature. And it was when I watched this clip, I saw these birds. They're in Papua New Guinea, and they're the bird of paradise. And I had never seen anything like it. But when I looked at it, what I could see was couture. Yeah. And the birds, they looked like little, I could see the shapes. I could see everything I'd seen in fashion. Historically, in the history of fashion photography, I could see an Irving Penn photograph in the way the bird was dancing, and then suddenly it dawned on me that everything that had intimidated me, and I got it wrong and thought it was unnatural, is actually intensely natural. So yeah, just have a look at this, and this is the dawning of my understanding of fashion.
Generations of choosy females have driven the evolution of these remarkable displays. The more extravagant a male is, the more likely he'll be noticed. The six-plumed bird of paradise displays in his special clearing on the forest floor. The magnificent bird of paradise favours the low branches of bushes. His female is modestly dressed. The male has a good set of lungs, but he'll have to do more than flutter his eyelids if he wants to impress her. It'll all depend on his performance. The females may be dull-looking, but they're very picky. And it's time for a really close inspection. His right side looks fine, but what about his left? Pretty impressive. But is he magnificent enough? Oh dear, her departure says it all.
What's interesting about that clip is that it's the male who is the dandier, more extravagant dresser. So yeah, it was an immense source of inspiration for me, that nature. Yeah, funny, I can see your dresses when I look at them.
Yeah, it's a really good video. It's amazing, yeah.
So this is the last thing that I think it's the last thing we were going to talk about is, we talked about openness, didn't we?
Yeah, I think the first time we met was on this shoot, which was for ID.
God, was that the first time?
I think that was the first
really?
time we met. I don't know when it was, a few years ago.
Yeah, a few years ago.
2016. Yeah. Was it in Tim's studio? And I think we touched on it earlier, but I remember being really kind of impressed by. I remember you used paper when we did that, and it was quite as kind of
cheap.
Well, it was simple. I mean, it was white. It was a white Colorama backdrop, wasn't it? I think. And but then you ripped paper, and then we had all like models that we'd had in my show, who weren't models. They were not professional models anyway. And I remember them all being a little bit uncomfortable because they were kind of piled up, weren't they?
That's right. Yeah.
And Tim just got Sharpies, and they all had a Sharpie in their hand, and that totally transformed it. And then teacups. You got teacups and they rested on their heads, and again that changed it so dramatically. And I think that's what I've seen through working with you. Well, spontaneity and kind of openness to.
I think it's just so awkward having your picture taken. I can't think of anything worse. So you're always doing everything you can do to distract people. So hopefully someone might have a dog or a cat or a parrot, or something might happen, or you turn music on, or you try and distract the person from the fact that they're being photographed. How did you find it when I photographed you?
I never like having my photo taken.
No, I remember you saying that
But
before.
I was excited for it to be you taking my photo, so it was better. And I was with my mum and my sister people. And I think I remember you kind of involved us in the process of it. You asked our opinion on things, and that was something no one had really done before. How does it differ for you taking photos of people that you know really well and people that you, like new people and like someone you work with a lot, like
that's really
ED
interesting. Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I think there's such a source of inspiration in someone's mystery when you don't know them, that you can project a magic onto someone, and silence is so appealing, actually. When people don't say a lot and you're trying to read them, it's very appealing. And then I think when you know someone really well, that can kind of get in the way, because, you know them too well, and you don't believe. I think when someone's silent and mysterious, you can project so much more onto them. But when you know them very well, you know that there's only a certain thing. Because I think, as a photographer, there's always an enormous amount of honesty and truth you're trying to capture and talk about in someone. So now I know you well, I could only portray you the way I know you. But when I didn't know you and you were all silent and mysterious, and then I could shove a lot more crap on you. Which is why you ended up
with a model whose job it is to like transform into whatever it is that you. Well, are there people that?
There's a mystery. It's such a
hard question.
Yeah, there's a mystery to professional models, actually. And I was thinking about this today. I think it's really interesting that the best famous models, or the people, the models that are household names, they all share a vulnerability. They have an immense vulnerability, even though people would say, oh, they are a great beauty of our day. Actually, they retain such a sensitivity and vulnerability that it's almost quite painful photographing them sometimes. And that's quite inspiring. Yeah. I find vulnerability in people inspiring. When someone is very cocksure and I find that very dead or something. It's sort of like there's nothing if someone's very vulnerable, even if they are famous, you're trying still to prove to them that they have a beauty, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's what you're doing as a photographer. You're saying, by virtue of taking a photograph, you're saying you're beautiful.
Yeah.
So whether it's this girl here who I'd never met before, she was so, when she came into the studio, she had such a gorgeous smile, and her body language and her gestures were so open and beautiful. So it's like every time you work, you're trying to freeze the statement, you are beautiful. I think that's what you're trying to do. Yeah. And if someone turns up and they're immediately like, they're telling you that they're really hot,
beautiful.
You're a bit like...
Not so keen.
Not so keen, no. Yeah, these are some pictures that that Molly and I did together. Yeah. And it came,
Alice.
yeah, it came at a time, I think, in my life where I'd had the, going back to that open thing we were talking about.
Yeah, we went off that, didn't we?
Yeah. It was sort of like just being very, whoever turned up in the studio. What's the next one?
That's back to the ID one. That's
that was the one when everyone was holding Sharpies and writing their names on the floor.
Yeah.
And I was trying to make them forget that they were being photographed. But they were all so beautiful. In fact, one of the models that you used in your show, Nikki, I've photographed a lot, actually, since then.
She's big.
Yeah, she's now. So if any of you want to be a model, then you can...
Speak to Alice.
Yeah. These, yeah.
You say it. Gosh. Well,
no, you
yeah,
say
this
it.
was the Patty, the little big series of images we did, and it was, I guess it was just like trying to, all the people that me and Alice working together had found interesting and were part of our kind of like day to day, and all the clothes, and finding a way of kind of documenting it all together, and obviously, and Tim's amazing at working with people. I think that's definitely something.
Yeah, well, I'm interested. I'm
interested in people and see the interesting things, or like you say, project it. And that's Mick, who worked at New Line, the builder's merchant, like next to our studio, who we'd see every day. And then the guy on the left is the hair man.
Yeah, he was the assistant to the hairdresser.
Hairdresser, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's my favourite photo.
I always remember your sister, Alice, saying to me, when she was styling a job I was doing, she always said, I think that everyone has got something that's photogenic. And that always touched me, because it was sort of like such a democratic, universal, lovely thing to say, but it is true.
I think it's very true.
Everyone, even if it's what does the guy do on the right?
He drives like a pickup van and moves planks of wood around in Ladbroke Grove.
Yeah, look, he's such a gorgeous face.
He's so lovely. He's called Mick, and he always used to give us like homebrew whiskey in a plastic bottle.
Oh,
that's my granny. That's my 90-year-old granny.
She's got something, hasn't she?
She really does. I'm not sure she knew what was happening, did she? But she did a good...
She did a good modelling job.
Did a very good modelling job, yeah.
Anyways, that's... we've covered everything?
I think we've covered a lot of things. Oh, and obviously Erin, maybe, just because she's incredible.
Well, then she's an amazing model.
She's an amazing model.
She is amazing.
She's really amazing. It was like watching a film. It was like watching the Birds of Paradise, actually, wasn't it? I thought.
Yeah, totally. She is one of those little birds spinning around.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Maybe that's a good ending.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Reveal your...
Not really.
Do you...
I don't know. I guess I get very stressed, but then I always just remember that I'm making clothes, and it's just such a lucky, fun job, which is a bit of a rubbish answer, but just you've got to kind of put it in perspective, I guess. I don't really ever try and go to those places with work stuff anyway.
Dark places?
No, because, I mean, you can be inspired by that, I suppose, but for me it's more a lot of fun. Yeah.
Which is actually, I really admire that.
Well, I try. Yeah, I hope it's
I think
fun.
that's a really good. Yeah, it's really important to remember that. What you're doing is so a sort of a grain of sand in the whole history of the universe. It's so inconsequential.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything. And when everything's said and done and everyone's gone home, Erin will still be standing there. You'll all have left her behind. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters, really, like that, I think. I mean, of course, it's, just like you, and like you, we're all very sensitive, and it's the sensitivity that's the gift for picking up on the frequencies of things that inspire. But, God, if I told you all about my vulnerabilities, I'd be giving too much away. Let's move on. Move on. I think all the elaborate nature of pictures came at a time when I was quite young. I mean, I think when I was really started out as a photographer, I was probably like in my early 20s, and no one listens to you, and no one's heard of you, and you were just saying, "Oh, I'd really like to do this," and then no one's like, "No, you can't." And so then by the time I had some time and some confidence, then I was like, "Oh no, I'd really like to do this," and then I'd really like to do that. That kind of built up, but it built up at the perfect time because I was then in my late 20s, so I really had the energy to deal with the complications that that brings. And then I think I went through that process of having the privilege of being able to be elaborate. And then that elaboration became very heavy and difficult to, as I got older, it just became too much, you know? It was sort of like, oh, I can't navigate another prop and environment. I'd rather just simplify. And actually, these pictures here are really where I'm at now, just the simplicity of a white space. So that was the trajectory. I can't, all those big numbers, those big symphonies of set design, it's very rare. I don't think I would do that now so much. Yeah, that would be that one. What I've realised is that my photography just is very much part of my life and where I end up. So I don't even know whether I'm going to carry on being a photographer. I don't know. I think the rule for me is if it's different, I'm interested. So where I just would hate to carry on what I did before. I just find that really gives me a tummy ache, the thought of repeating and going back and doing stuff. So actually, in answer to the previous question, it's sort of like I can't carry on doing anything elaborate. I'm just interested in anything that I've never done before. So wherever I can do that, it could be the little Super 8 doodle that you saw, you know, with the Leonora Carrington. It could be doing something like that. Are you always going to be a designer, do you think?
I have no idea.
Do you ever think about giving it all up?
Yeah.
What would you do?
I'd do something outside and physical.
Gardening?
Yeah, gardening.
Animals?
No.
No. No.
Just trees.
Just trees.
Yeah.
When I started out, I used to take pictures for newspapers, so it was sort of like they would only talk or be within that realm. They weren't shared so broadly. You know, it's funny. It's completely changed for me because although I was joking about it being a grain of sand in our existence and being totally inconsequential, it's actually the reverse because now being a photographer carries so much responsibility about how people are portrayed, and I think my notion, not necessarily politically, but just my notion as a responsible human being and what I am taking a picture of has become enormously important to me now, how I see it and because I just see, I can take a picture, although I'm not. Do you do Instagram?
Yeah, but I
You
don't. Not me so much, and I don't really like it that much.
I find it crazy that if I take a picture, like that picture we did of your models in my studio, I have got no control where that photograph, so it will just go out into the ether and it goes out. I don't put it on I'll probably put it on my website, but then that's it. It sort of then goes, and then it just all those private, small groups of people. The fashion industry was so small, and it was so the people in the fashion industry just talk to one another. But now it's not just the fashion industry; it's everyone.
Yeah.
So by virtue, there's an enormous responsibility that comes with being a photographer and an image maker and a designer now, because everyone's seeing it. It sort of has to have responsibility, don't you think?
Yes, it's big pressure, I think, and it's hard to please everyone always.
Yeah, I don't think you can ever do that.
No, but not even that you really try to, but even just to I don't know. Everyone reads so far into everything, and sometimes. I don't know, I think it is important to... I personally try and do what we can as just in terms of kind of almost the way we run the business and the way I treat models and do shows, and not that that's all I do, but that's where I'm starting off in terms of the bigger picture.
Yeah, I think it's great what you do in that way.